Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. Bulls claw back on Dalal Street. The sensex gains 900 points. The Nifty adds on 300, posting the biggest single-day gain in 2023 so far. PSU banks and real estate stocks are the top gainers this week. All Adani Group stocks rally after the investment from US-based GQG Partners. The group has regained market cap of nearly 2 lakh crore rupees in the last 4 sessions.
A year back, we had already raised 1 billion and the whole funding got closed, a month back or so. So we are, for the current, few years, we are pretty well funded.
Tata Motors clocks a production milestone of 5 million cars today. The company remains confident of demand but sees single-digit growth in FY24, remains non-committal on rumours of a stake sale to further fund its EV business, says there is enough cash for the next 2 to 3 years. Some interim relief for Yes Bank. The Supreme Court extends the stay on the Bombay High Court order which had quashed the bank's plans to write down 8,400 crore rupees worth of additional Tier 1 bonds, but had stayed its own order for 6 weeks. Seeks clarification on whether an administrator is empowered to execute such write-offs. The Company Law Appellate Tribunal refuses to stay the ownership transfer of Jet Airways to Jalan Kolrock Consortium. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 the lenders are unlikely to challenge the order and back-channel talks between the lenders and the consortium are underway. That's an exclusive. Andhra Pradesh government attracts investment proposals worth 13 lakh crore rupees. At their Global Investor Summit in Vizag, Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy says the government will sign 90 MOUs worth 11 lakh crore rupees today. Also on the show, regional content streaming platforms gain in popularity, pose a threat to OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime. Well, let's start with the day's market action. The Dalal Street posting its biggest single-day rally in nearly 4 months as the bulls clawed back. The Sensex gained 900 points today and the Nifty added nearly 300 points. And thanks to the Friday rally, both major indices have closed the week in the green. Prashant is standing by now to wrap up the market action for us. Quite the close, Prashant, for the week.
Finally, a super Friday. It's been long in the coming. We've been talking about how the market was directionless, down 100, up 100. And before that, of course, 8 days of continuous losses. But today was emphatic and the market closed with pretty strong gains. Actually, bulk of the gains came from banks and financials. So the bank Nifty is up on your screen. And within that, the PSU banks is what did the heavy lifting. The index at one point was up almost 5.5% and closed very well. Now, there are two distinct pockets of stocks and both are linked. Yesterday, we got news that a big, large global equity fund has picked up a large stake in 4 Adani Group companies. And this is linked to retail sentiment in a very large way. And that got a lift. So that was a rub-off which we saw. Not just stocks, as you can see on your screen, all 10 Adani Group stocks ending the day higher. And this is happening after a long time. Enterprises, Ports, Ambuja, Adani Total, Adani Green, Adani Power were some of the names. PSU banks is the other area where they were all sold down because of the exposure. SBI, BOB, UBI, Bank of India, UCO Bank, Indian Bank are some of the other names. Now, outside of these groups, right, there were gainers as well. Vedanta, case in point, again, debt-related issues which were plaguing it. Sharp correction recently came up 5-6%. PB Fintech, Angel One, JSW Energy, Indigo Paints, Dream Folks were some of the other names. They were losers as well, and market breadth was close. It was not wildly in the positive region. Yes Bank, Tech Mahindra, Shree Cement, Zomato were some of the losers. With the rally that we've seen on the Nifty, both the Nifty and Bank Nifty have conquered some important technical levels. But I think the global still will be important because the big worry has been the surge in US market interest rates, yields. If we can get some pullback, some softeners there, I think that lends support when we come back on Monday morning. Back to you.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Well, the fourth day of gains for the Adani stocks as well. All 10 companies added 68,000 crore rupees to the market cap. Today, in the last 4 days, the Adani Group has gained nearly 2 lakh crore rupees in market cap. Today's rally was largely thanks to US-based GQG, which has invested about $2 billion into the Adani Group, picking up minority stake in 4 group companies. The group's promoter entity offloaded 3.39% stake in the flagship entity, Adani Enterprises, for 1,410 rupees a share. That's a 67% discount to the stock's 52-week high of 4,190 rupees. However, this is still well above the 52-week low of 1,018 rupees. Shares of lenders to the Adani Group also perked up in trade after the large investment from GQG partners. At least 6 lenders have an exposure of nearly 60,000 crore rupees to the Adani Group. Adani accounts for nearly 2% of the loan book of REC, that's Rural Electrification Corporation. Private banks like IndusInd Bank and Axis Bank have significant exposure to the Adani Group, along with PSUs like SBI, PNB and Bank of Baroda. And speaking of banks, the RBI saw details from banks about their exposure to the Adani Group. Sources say the RBI is fully cognizant of the exposure of both banks and NBFCs. Lata joins us now with more. Lata.
Along with the Adani Group stocks since Jan 24th, you saw a goodish bit of beating of SBI, BOB and such stocks as well. Now, despite these banks coming out and clarifying their exact exposure, there was this niggling worry that, some of these banks like SBI and BOB have a big international loan, about 18-19 billion increase over the last couple of years. And there was this niggling worry that maybe that is not getting included. Maybe some of these have found their way into the Adani Group and it's not getting included. Now, I have it from the highest possible sources across the banking sector that whatever data RBI has includes the bank's investment in their international book, in their investment book, in case they've bought any bonds, and in their clean loans to the Adani Group. So all kinds of possible exposure is included when Reserve Bank asks these data, and this includes NBFCs, and this includes the data that banks have told us when we have asked them about their exposure. That 0.9% of our outstanding book that SBI told us. That includes every possible exposure, so people don't have to worry that some of this was excluded in the data that was given out. As well, now, separately from all this, investors are less worried about exposures itself because of the group's proven ability to raise money when it comes to it.
Lata, many thanks for joining us. Now, while Adani Group stocks have recovered lost ground, 14 of its 15 US dollar bonds were still in the red. 4 of the group's notes due for redemption by the end of 2026 are trading between 84 cents to 94 cents on the dollar, down from 91 cents to 99 cents before the Hindenburg report was released. Moreover, 7 of the group's 11 notes due in or after 2027 are trading below or near 70 cents on the dollar. This is a level that defines distress or severe concerns about timely payment. Now to the currency market, the rupee surging almost 0.5% against the dollar. Following a cue from the domestic markets, a strong end to the week. Experts attribute early trade rally to block deals in the Adani Group stocks, the rupee ending at just under the 82 mark against the dollar. Well, on to action from the Supreme Court. Some relief coming in for Yes Bank. The Supreme Court has extended the stay on the Bombay High Court order, which had quashed the bank's plans to write down 8,400 crore rupees worth of additional Tier 1 bonds, but had stayed its own order for 6 weeks. The court, however, has sought clarification on whether an administrator is empowered to execute such write-offs. Ashwin joins us now with the details. Ashwin, take us through what transpired. What were the key observations?
Well, the big bone of contention is whether or not, under the reconstruction scheme, the administrator has the power to write off wholesale the entire 81 batch of bonds, adding up to about 8,400 crore rupees. That's the big talking point. The questions were raised before by the bondholders. They questioned as to whether or not the power is available. Yes Bank, on its part, had argued that, look, as far as the bank itself is concerned, it had become unviable, and therefore it was required for reconstruction to take place for these bonds to be written off. The RBI supplemented that position by arguing that SBI as well as public lenders have put in public money, I beg your pardon, and that this money could be put in only once the bonds were done away with, and that is public money that needs to be accounted for. Having said that, what's important here to understand is that the Apex Court is asking very pointed questions. Number one is asking for whether or not the power is available. Number two, it's asking whether or not all the bondholders can be put in the same basket. In fact, raising questions over whether or not small bondholders can be protected. So these are questions that the banks will have to answer to. The next hearing will take place on March 28th.
All right, Ashmit, get a sip of water. Thanks very much for joining us. A quick check of some of the other headlines. The Purchasing Managers Index for India's services sector touched a 12-year high of nearly 60 in February. That's according to a survey conducted by credit rating agency S&P. This rise is being seen on the back of strong demand, easing price pressures. Any reading above 50 indicates expansion. And this rise in the services PMI led to an expansion in the composite PMI from 57.5 in January to 59 in February. Tata Motors has clocked a production milestone of 5 million cars today. Speaking to me earlier, the company's managing director, Shailesh Chandra, says he remains confident of demand but sees single-digit growth in FY24. He also remains non-committal on rumours of a possible stake sale to further fund the company's EV business. Listen in. Well, we'll get to that in just a second. Apple's manufacturing partner Foxconn is planning to invest over $700 million to set up a new plant in Bengaluru. Sources say Foxconn aims to ramp up local production of iPhone parts in a 300-acre facility near Bengaluru airport. The investment is likely to be Foxconn's biggest single outlay in India. Foxconn has also announced setting up an electronic manufacturing hub in another southern state. That's the state of Telangana. Chief Minister KCR said the deal has the potential to generate over 1 lakh jobs in 10 years. The company appellate tribunal has refused to stay the Jet Airways ownership transfer to the Jalan Kalrock consortium. Lenders had moved the NCLAT seeking a stay on the company tribunal's order transferring Jet Airways ownership. Sources say lenders are unlikely to challenge the order. Madiha standing by with more. Madiha, a truce likely?
Well, after several months of a standoff, we are now seeing some progress in the Jet Airways relaunch saga. The NCLAT refusing to stay ownership transfer of the airline, as you mentioned, bolsters Jalan Kalrock's position in the ownership transfer tussle. And now, as you also mentioned, sources tell us that lenders are unlikely to challenge the NCLAT order. We learn there are back-channel talks underway between the banks and the consortium to expedite the transfer process. Sources say that the consortium is willing to give an undertaking to banks on some of the points of contention. It is likely to assure banks of complying with the Supreme Court order on PF and gratuity payments that come to approximately 250 crores. This is the additional payment than the 475 crore rupees. The consortium, we are told, is also willing to allow banks to use the aircraft rental proceeds that come to about 130 crores. Now, sources also say that JKC is likely to pay the first tranche of 185 crores to the creditors within 2 months after receiving SEBI's approval. Remember, both members of the consortium are based out of India, so they will need the market regulators' nod to receive money from foreign source. The airline's monitoring committee, we are told, is expected to meet next week to give a go-ahead to the consortium. And we learned that Jalan Kalrock is also likely to give an undertaking to banks, assuring it will make the remaining payments irrespective of getting airport slots and traffic rights. We reached out to the Jalan Kalrock consortium, but it is yet to respond to a query, while CEO designate Sanjeev Kapoor said he has no comments on the matter.
All right, Madiha, many thanks for joining us. And as we head into the break, here's Shailesh Chandra of Tata Motors as promised.
Yeah, I would definitely concur to a single-digit growth that we expect next year. Remember that it was a exceptionally good year, which was FY23, which we might see nearly 75% growth in this particular financial year. A very good supply and therefore release of pent-up demand now leaves less scope of a double-digit growth, I would say, next financial year. Actually, retail would be, I would reckon, about 3.7 million this year, so 100,000 less, which would mean that even the channel inventory is going to be slightly higher than where we started at the start of FY23. A year back, we had already raised 1 billion and the whole funding got closed, a month back or so. So we are, for the current, few years, we are pretty well funded. There are many other ways of raising the fund, including debt route. But we are absolutely open to going any additional route, and anything is possible. So therefore, I would not like to say yes or no.
Well, the Andhra Pradesh Global Investor Summit kicked off today. Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy said the government will sign 90 MOUs worth 11 lakh crore rupees. Corporate leaders including Mukesh Ambani, Kumar Mangalam Birla, Karan Adani were in attendance.
The state has received 340 investment proposals with an investment of about 13 lakh crores. Providing employment to almost 6 lakh people across 20 sectors distributed all along the state.
We have invested over 150,000 crores in our KGD6 assets, developing and supporting gas pipeline. We are creating the largest and the best digital network footprint in the state by investing over 40,000 crores. We will continue our investments and we will invest in 10 gigawatts of renewable solar energy in the state of Andhra Pradesh.
Having already invested over 20,000 crores, our businesses have created more than 18,000 direct and 54,000 indirect employment opportunities in the state. Pursuant to the MOU signed with Government of Andhra Pradesh, we are committed to developing 15,000 megawatt of renewable power projects over the next few years.
Well, that's the latest state trying to woo investors. Move over Netflix, Prime and Hotstar regional OTT platforms are the new favourites for Indian consumers. Shilpa Ranipeta reports that a FICCI EY report estimates that regional content will make up half of OTT consumption by 2025. More platforms are now joining that race.
এই শহরে এইটুকু লালি তো বেঁচে আছে হরিয়ানवी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री की शुरुआत भी करें
India has 121 languages and 19,500 dialects, and Hindi is just one of them. While Hindi and English currently dominate content among streaming platforms in India, regional platforms and OTT apps are springing up, targeting audience looking for content in their local languages.
Entertainment, be it food or anything like this, local is going to have its own importance, and people never ever forget the local taste of language, food and other ethnic values. They don't forget it.
Customers demand the hyper-localization. Customers demand that content is told in their language and depicts their stories, their realities.
A report by FICCI and EY estimates that by 2024, 54% of content produced for OTTs will be in languages other than Hindi and English. 3-year-old AHA, which streams content in Telugu and Tamil, has 2.5 million paid subscribers and 12 million monthly active users. Stage, founded in 2019, has 275,000 paid subscribers for its content in Haryanvi and Rajasthani dialect. Bengali content streamer Hoichoi has 13 million subscribers as of 2020, and Planet Marathi said it had over 24 million video plays on its app. This popularity has been driven by greater smartphone and internet penetration, cheap data, and increasing adoption of online payment systems like UPI.
People said, "Yaar, Bharat paisa nahi deta hai. People don't pay for content out there." You are talking about charging a subscription for Haryanvi content, Rajasthani content, which is even more very hyper-local, etc. I think we've been proven, most of the people who said that have been proven wrong. People in Bharat are ready to pay. If you're ready to provide enough value, if you provide quality content.
Content in regional languages is also going beyond just dubbing from one language to another.
Original content is where our connect with local stories is. Original content is a better ROI, cheaper to produce than acquiring the films. And original content is where our valuation is. That's the IP that we own.
This also leads to more jobs and talent discovery, not to mention better business metrics.
We create an entire web series, 6 episodes, 20-minute, 30-minute each, essentially. So 3 to 4 hours of content. We end up creating under 20 lakh rupees. Content creation is actually very cost effective. When you create it in dialects, when you create it locally, when you create it with local artists. हमारे cost structures Bombay के नहीं है essentially. हमारे cost structures हरियाणा में भिवानी के हैं, हिसार के हैं, पानीपत के हैं, दादरी के हैं, and so on and so.
The Indian Indian diaspora is another major subscriber base for these regional OTT platforms. And if the success of RRR and Pushpa are any indication, there is massive potential for regional content amongst international audiences as well. But for these regional platforms, capturing audience back home is their first preference. And with a finger on the pulse, they could give players like Netflix and Amazon Prime a run for their money. In Mumbai, Shilpa Ranipeta.
And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. Our Friday favorite, Editors Roundtable, is up next.